Hello, everybody, and welcome to Between the Bumps Professional Wrestling Podcast, the pro wrestling podcast where we go between the bumps in the ring to discuss match quality, storylines, wrestling news, and even make predictions in the world of professional wrestling and sports entertainment. I'm your host, Christian Marrero. Thank you for tuning in. Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Between the Bumps. This is the Dynamite review show. And let's just get right into it, guys, because I got quite a lot to talk about. Jericho was on commentary tonight, which is always a delight. Jericho is amazing on commentary. He was not on commentary for the whole show, but he was for about half the show. It was good. You know, Jericho is awesome on commentary. A four-man booth is a venture in pro wrestling. That is something, it's a risk. But Jericho made it work. He fit himself in there seamlessly. And it's always fun to have Jericho on commentary. He's really good. When Jericho does retire from in-ring competition, I really hope he takes a commentator role, because he's very, very good at it. And Justin Roberts is back. Do you know how nice that is? It is so nice to have Justin Roberts back. I'm so glad. I've missed his announcing. I'm so happy that Justin Roberts is back on AEW Dynamite. It's just not the same without him. Let's get into our first match, guys. So our first match was a tag team match between FTR and Butcher and the Blade, and it was a great match. It was a really great match. FTR, they make their entrance in their truck. I believe it's a Chevy, but don't quote me on that. I'm not a car guy. But they make their entrance, and the match starts with Dax Harwood and the Blade. They lock up. Blade pushes Harwood into the corner twice. He overpowers him. The third time they lock up, Dax is able to take Blade down with a headlock, but Blade gets up and they just start slugging each other. Dax hits 2 shoulder tackles on Blade. He goes for a roll-up and a cradle, but both times Blade is able to kick out. Dax takes him down with a headlock again. Then he tags in Cash, and they begin to work Blade's shoulder and his arm. So Dax tags back in, and they continue to work the arm and shoulder of Blade. He goes for a Northern Lights suplex pin combination, but Blade is able to kick out. Butcher tags in, and both teams kind of have a stare down in the middle of the ring, and the ref has to separate them, get each man to their corner. So Cash tags in to take on the Butcher, but Butcher overpowers Cash very momentarily, and Cash is able to hit a drop kick. And when he lands the dropkick, he pretends that his shoulder is injured. He feigns a shoulder injury, but this was just to lure Butcher in for a roll-up. Butcher drags Cash to his team's corner, being the Butcher's corner. And Blade tags in, chokes Cash on the ropes for the 4 count. Butcher tags back in and continues the choke before tagging out again. And Blade is able to lock in a headlock sleeper to drag Cash down, but Cash is able to hit the jawbreaker to escape, and Blade takes Dax off the apron before he gets hit with a power slam while he was going for a leapfrog. Dax is able to finally tag in. He takes control with some jabs and a back suplex. He hits a swinging neck breaker on Blade and a dragon screw on Butcher. Dax hits Blade with the brain buster and goes for a superplex, but Butcher saves him from it. Dax tags in Cash. Dax is finally able to hit the superplex. Cash hits a flying elbow drop after the superplex, but Blade is able to kick out at 2. Dax tags back in again. He goes for another roll-up before getting hit with a knee, and then he is double-teamed by Butcher and Blade. Cash saves Dax, saved the match, and they hit the Shatter Machine on Butcher, and then they hit their combo pile driver on Blade, and they get the pinfall victory. Very good match. This was a very good match. Awesome tag team psychology. Very hard-hitting and aggressive, and very different from anything we've seen on Dynamite. Most people on Dynamite are high-flying, very fast-paced. This was a methodical match. Very hard-hitting, very aggressive. It was a really great match. It was a great opening match to Dynamite this week. So Tony Schiavone decides to interview FTR in the ring after the match. And Dax says that AEW is the pinnacle of pro wrestling and the pinnacle of tag team wrestling. And then the Young Bucks come out. And they congratulate FTR on the win. And they thank FTR for helping them out a few weeks ago. But FTR failed to properly introduce themselves. So Matt says, "Hey, I'm Matt Jackson. This is Nick Jackson. We're the Young Bucks, and we've been carrying tag team wrestling on our backs for the past decade and a half. We are the best tag team wrestlers in AEW. And before they're able to finish, Butcher attacks the Bucks, and FTR make the save. And then out of nowhere, Kip Sabian and Jimmy Havoc attack FTR. And the Bucks and Kenny and Hangman make the save for them. And then the three teams left, they face off in the ring. Kind of have this weird tension about it. And that's how the segment ends. It was a good segment, good match, really good start to Dynamite this week. I really enjoyed it. Then we go backstage and we have a Natural Nightmares interview. And it is revealed that the Natural Nightmares will face Kenny and Hangman for the tag titles. This does not make sense. It really doesn't. I am not convinced that Natural Nightmares deserve a tag team title shot. But it's okay because I'm pretty sure the match is going to be great. The real thing that we should focus on here is the fact that Brandy was upset with Allie, who is QT Marshall's new girlfriend. You would have had to have watched Dark to understand that. And she is upset because Allie is wearing a Nightmare Family jacket. So Dustin asks QT, he's like, do you understand what is at stake? Do you get what this opportunity means? I need your head in the game. I need you to not be distracted. So next week, your little girlfriend will not be at ringside. So get this out of your system. And then we move on to a second tag team match. And here's the thing. The match was not bad by any stretch of the imagination. However, the first tag team match we saw on the show was so good that any tag team match that follows it is going to be hard. It's a hard match to follow up. The FTR versus Butcher and the Blade was so good that this tag team match really had to live up to a standard that it just could not live up to. But anyway, let's break it down. So, Ford and Rose attack before the bell because it's Hikaru Shida and Chris Statlander facing Penelope Ford and Nyla Rose. So, Penelope Ford and Rose attack before the bell. Nyla and Penelope try to double team Statlander, but Statlander is able to fend them off. So, Statlander and Rose officially start the match. Shida and Statlander make a bunch of rapid tags to each other as they attack Nyla in their corner. Statlander goes for a splash, but Nyla's able to dodge it, and that's when Nyla gets the advantage. She starts to beat down Statlander before hitting her with a really mean slam right before the commercial break. So when we return from commercial, Nyla is in control of Statlander. Statlander hits a Pele kick though, and that takes Nyla down, and then she hits her with a lariat. Shida and Ford are both tagged in. So Shida's able to hit a running knee on Penelope in the corner, and then on the apron. Shida goes up top, hits a missile drop kick. She hits a vertical suplex, but Ford is able to kick out at 2. Then, Statlander and Shida hit Ford with a double backbreaker, and Hikaru hits the running knee to the back of Ford's head. Statlander goes for a vertical suplex, but Ford reverses that into a DDT. Ford tags out, but hits a stunner on Statlander before she leaves the ring. Shida hits a superplex on Rose, and Statlander follows up with an axe kick. Nyla kicks out at 2, though. Shida tags in, and she goes for the Falcon Arrow, but Nyla's too big. She hangs her up on the ropes, and then she hangs Statlander up on the ropes, and she hits her flying knee to the both of them. Ford tags in, but Statlander prevents the double team. Shida takes out Nyla and hits the Falcon Arrow on Ford, but Ford kicks out. Kip Sabian intervenes. Statlander hits a dive onto him. Nyla hits Shida with the title, and Ford follows up with the Northern Light suplex. She gets the pinfall. Nyla and Penelope Ford win. And listen, I don't think that was the right call. Shida just won the title, and she took the pinfall. 1, we could have had Statlander take the pinfall. Or 2, we should have just let them win the match. Because now, only a couple weeks removed from Double or Nothing, our women's champion just got pinned. Yes, there were shenanigans. No, it was not a clean finish because she got hit with her own title. But Shida should not be taking pinfalls so soon after winning said title. It just shouldn't be happening. It just should not be happening, in my opinion, or this champion is no longer going to feel like a strong champion. Does that make sense? Am I in the wrong here? I don't think I am. So that's the one thing I would change about this match. And also, I would have put this match later in the show. That way, it didn't have to follow up a much better tag team match. And it's not knocking on the women, because the match was good. The match was legitimately good. But it's just that FTR is such a good tag team that following up any of their matches with another tag team match is going to be really hard, especially with two teams who aren't real teams. Like, these are not real tag teams. Sheeta and Statlander are not a real tag team. Rose and Ford are not a real tag team. So, I would have changed the placement of this match. Then we got a Darby Allin vignette, and Darby still isn't cleared to wrestle, so he goes to skate with Tony Hawk. And he tries to drop in off of a ladder, which, like, why are you doing that, Darby? You're gonna get hurt. But either way, he fails multiple times. He finally lands it. Him and Tony Hawk celebrate. It was a fun little vignette. Then we got another vignette, and it was Britt Baker. And Britt in this vignette says she is exhausted of Big Swole's attitude, and she is sick of hearing of her struggles. She says that she has real struggles, like studying for a biochemistry exam or something like that. Or I think it was microbiology exam. And to be a role model. She says that she has real struggles because of these things, but she is happy to be a role model, but she needs to be respected like the role model she is. Then we followed up with yet another tag team match. And listen, I'm not against tag team matches, but 3 in a row, I would have paced it better. I would have put in a singles match, which we did have later on. I would have put a singles match to break these up. Because I would have had FTR versus Butcher and the Blade, put in the singles match, and then the 2 tag team matches. And that would have been fine. It would have made these tag team matches feel a little better. So either way, we get a 6-man tag match between the Inner Circle, which is Santana, Ortiz, and Hager in this case, taking on the Best Friends and Orange Cassidy. So the Inner Circle attacks, and they throw Cassidy onto the stage right as the bell rings. And Hager attacks Orange Cassidy on the outside. The match officially starts with Santana and Trent. And pretty much what happened is the Inner Circle dominate the match for the beginning of it by just ganging up on Trent. They just all jumped Trent. I don't even think Chuck Taylor tagged into this match. So after getting ganged up on for like a good 5 to 10 minutes, Trent is finally able to hit a tornado DDT on Ortiz. Trent tags in Orange Cassidy, and Ortiz tags in Hager. Cassidy is able to use his quickness and his agility and his athleticism to fend off all 3 members of the Inner Circle momentarily before he gets caught with a spine buster by Hager. Trent and Chuck make the save, but they're taken out by Santana and Ortiz. Santana hits a cannonball on Cassidy in the corner. Santana and Ortiz go for the street sweeper, but Trent saves Cassidy, and Cassidy gets a roll-up, most devastating move in all of pro wrestling, and he gets the pin. So after the match, Jericho leaves the commentary desk, and the Inner Circle attacks the Best Friends and Cassidy. Cassidy is busted open after getting hit with Floyd the Bat, and then Jericho brings in a giant bag of literal oranges, like the fruit, and he hits Cassidy with them twice. It was a waste of fruit, but I'm gonna let it pass because it was funny, so it was worth it. It was hilarious. And then Jericho makes the dumbest pun ever, but it works because Jericho is Jericho and can make anything work. And he says, Blood Orange Cassidy has just been juiced. And he dumps the oranges all over Cassidy. It was a good match. It was a fun match. But like I said, I would have just separated them a little bit more. I would have put this maybe a little later in the show after a singles match or something to separate it. Just because 3 tag team matches in a row. The problem was they started with the best tag team match, right? They didn't build up. But it was still a good match, and the ending segment was hilarious. It was fun. I love Chris Jericho. And after this point, Chris Jericho was no longer on commentary. So they did not have the 4-man booth for the entire show. Following this, we had an MJF ringside interview. It was supposed to be an interview with Billy Gunn, but MJF hijacks it. And he goes on to say, look, I've been undefeated for a year now, and Jungle Jack Jabroni getting a title shot before me is BS. And everyone in the back, you want to know why they don't like me? They don't like me because I am the glass ceiling that everyone hits, and they will never be able to pass. I'm that glass ceiling. Everyone is a minnow, and I am a great white shark. Then Billy Gunn says, you know what? You're a minnow. And MJF responds by saying, you know what, Billy Gunn, you're just here trying to get your trash son a job. And Gunn gets pissed. He goes to attack MJF, but Wardlow steps in, makes a physical barrier between the two. And so next week, we're getting Wardlow versus Billy Gunn. Two big old men. That match should be fun. Then we had the first singles competition of the match. I would have put this match earlier in the card to break up the tag team matches. It was Colt Cabana versus Sammy Guevara, and Colt throws Sammy's scooter off the stage before the match. And Sammy leaves, he recovers his scooter, and Sammy flips off Colt once the match starts, which Cabana reciprocates. And then Cabana's able to get a side headlock, Sammy leapfrogs it, Cabana hits Sammy with some chops, catches him with a hurricanrana, he gets a wrist lock, he makes Sammy flip himself off, and then Sammy takes advantage on the outside, rolls back into the ring, he starts blowing kisses to somebody, he goes for a roll-up, but Cabana kicks out, he chokes Cabana on the middle rope, and then kicks the bottom rope into his throat, he chops Cabana a few times, runs the ropes, various times, he's teasing some kind of running, agile move, but then he stops dead in his tracks, he locks in a headlock, he locks in the sleeper, and Cabana is able to power out. Cabana tries to build momentum, but Sammy's able to lock in the sleeper once again. Cabana powers out again, and he catches Sammy with a knee. Cabana is squatted by Guevara, but this was to Guevara's detriment because Cabana escapes the fireman's carry, catches him with that elbow. But when he... Okay, so Sammy gets hit, and he gets hit with like a double up kick because he was on the ropes, Cabana was on the ground, and Cabana squirms away. Sammy gets off the ropes to chase him, and right when he walks up to Cabana, Cabana hits him in the gut with a double up kick. So Cabana hits the flying apple and then a splash on Sammy, but Sammy is able to hit Cabana with an enziguri, and Cabana retorts with a moonsault press, but Sammy is able to kick out. Cabana goes for the Chicago skyline off the top rope, but he slips. After this, Sammy hits the GTH and he gets the pinfall victory. The GTH is an awesome finisher, by the way. It's kind of like the go to sleep, except you have them in an inverted fireman's carry, so instead of their stomach laid across your shoulders, you have their back laid across your shoulders, and then he flips him over into the knee like a go to sleep. It's called the GTH. I imagine that stands for Go to Hell. Great move. Sammy gets the pinfall victory. And Evil Uno and Stu Grayson, who we have not seen in forever, of the Dark Order, they come out. Brody Lee comes out after them. Brody Lee offers his hand to Cabana. He picks him up off the floor, and the Dark Order leaves. And Cabana follows them. So Sammy cuts a small promo talking about how great he is. And Matt Hardy, of all people, interrupts. And Matt says, look, I respect you, Guevara, and I see a young Matt Hardy in you. But Sammy, if you want to be the future, you are the future, but if you want to realize that potential, you need to leave Jericho's side. And then he goes, oh, is that a fact? And so, of course, Matt switches over to the V1 character, and he shares a Matt fact. So Sammy says, I'm not going to trust the man who tried to run me over. And so Matt switches to V1, and he says, look, Sammy, you don't have my mattributes. And then Sammy responds by saying, look, Matt, I don't know if you're stupid or just broken. And so, of course, Matt switches over to the broken persona. And this really throws Sammy for a loop and intimidates him. So much so that Sammy leaves the ring. So Matt gets in the ring and he says that he will mash Sammy into a mofongo, which is a Puerto Rican dish because his wife is Puerto Rican, and he will eat him. Sammy flees and Matt screams delete. A lot of people don't like Matt Hardy right now. I love Matt Hardy, and I think everything Matt Hardy is doing is gold. I love it, and I don't want him to stop. I love the fact that he's switching between the characters. I love how funny he is. I love how he throws himself in everything he does, and he just seems so happy to be in AEW. He seems so happy where he is. So you know what? I love you, Matt Hardy. You'll probably not listen to this, but if this reaches your ears, I love you, and I'm glad you're doing what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. Then we had a Joey Janela vignette. And he says, you know what? I went from being in the main event of Dynamite against a champion to pretty much just doing nothing, just losing matches. I've lost my direction lately. And then, out of nowhere, Sonny Kiss drives up in a beautiful car, and he picks Janela up completely by chance. He asks Janela where he's been, and Janela just says, I've been drinking. So, Janela gets in the car, and him and Sonny drive off. Then we had Colt Cabana backstage, and Dasha Gonzalez is trying to interview Colt. But Colt says nothing, he just keeps walking down this hallway until he arrives at a dressing room. That dressing room happens to be the Dark Order's. Colt contemplates it for a moment, and then he goes into the dressing room. So, Colt Cabana has now joined the Dark Order, at least that is what we have been led to believe. Then we have an interview with Jon Moxley conducted by Alex Marvez, and Moxley says, you know what, Alex, I'm in a bad mood, I'm pissed off. I have no patience for people who are running their mouth when they don't know what the hell they're talking about. And he's like, you know what, Taz wanted to get under my skin, well, he's gotten under my skin, he has succeeded. And he's like, look, I am a son of a bitch, and it pisses me off that anyone thinks they can beat me. It pisses me off that Brian Cage thinks he can beat me. It pisses me off that Taz thinks Brian Cage can beat me. I'm full of piss and vinegar. I am miserable because I know that people want what I got. Retorting, or better said, reiterating what he had said a couple months ago when he first won the title. Pretty much just saying, it angers me that anyone thinks they can take what is mine. So Taz comes out and is like, hey, what the hell is your problem? You need to get your head right because Brian Cage is going to kick the crap out of you at Fyter Fest. And then Brian Cage attacks Moxley from behind. Moxley tries to fight back and he tries to hit Brian Cage with a steel rod. He dodges and then he slams Moxley onto the hood of a car. He goes for the drill claw on the cement, but Taz stops him. Taz is like, whoa, whoa, whoa. No, that's too far. Wait for your match. You have a match with him at Fyter Fest. You don't want to jeopardize that in any way. Don't do it. So, Cage puts him down. Then he picks Moxley up and tosses him onto the back windshield of the car. The windshield shatters. Mox is in a lot of pain. Then we get to our main event of the evening. Mark Quinn versus Cody Rhodes for the TNT Championship. So there was a small vignette before the match explaining how this match came about. Pretty much just Cody talking about why he started the Open Challenge and how Mark Quinn is a very driven and ambitious young man and how Cody sees great things in him. This was the main event slot. And look, I'm fine with that for this week and even for a few more weeks. But Cody should not main event every single week, even though he's defending his title. They should put this match as the first match of the show for, you know, not only to switch it up a bit, but because if Cody is in the main event every week, fans are going to get sick of him. Fans are going to get sour on Cody Rhodes, and that's not what we need. We don't need fans saying, oh, he booked himself in the main event slot. We don't need that. We need Cody to keep this momentum that he's got going for him. We don't need fans to sour on Cody for something stupid like being the last match on the card. So I think in the upcoming weeks as this Open Challenge continues, instead of main eventing, it should open the show. I really do. Now look, I'm not going to spoil this match. Just go watch it. I realized this because I was thinking last week, you know, I'm gonna try not to spoil championship matches, because a lot of people don't like knowing before they're able to see the match. So just go watch this match. It was a good match. It was very different from the match they had last week between Jungle Boy and Cody. The reason being that last week's match was more of a highlight show, more of a spotlight of spots to show off Jungle Boy's athleticism, to show off Cody's great. Whereas with this match was more of a story. They told more of a story throughout this match. So that for me shows versatility on not only Mark Quinn's part, but on Cody's part. It shows that Cody can do a high spot match, like with Jungle Boy, where it's just spot, 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 spot. But he can also tell an amazing story, which we already knew. And props to Mark Quinn for telling a story, because Mark Quinn, based on everything we've seen of him thus far, is a spot guy. He is a high flyer. He is a guy who goes in and does a bunch of cool shit. This time, though, he toned it down a little bit, and he told a story. So props to you, Mark Quinn. So I'm not going to spoil the match. I'm pretty sure you can guess who won it, but go watch it anyways. It was a good match, great story. So after the match, Hager comes out, Jake Hager of the Inner Circle, and he attacks Cody and Arn Anderson, but Private Party, or at least the one member of Private Party that was backstage, Isaiah Cassidy, and Matt Hardy, they come out, they make the save, the Inner Circle comes out, and they all have a brawl. The baby faces stand tall. They drive the Inner Circle out of the ring. And Cody tells Hager, look, I know what you want. You've made it very clear. You want a shot at me at Fyter Fest? You got it. So, now we're getting Cody versus Jake Hager at Fyter Fest for the TNT Championship. I'm cool with that. A lot of people shit on Jake Hager. I like Jake Hager. I like Jake Hager. He is doing good things. So I am excited for that match. And that's how we ended the show. It was an 8 out of 10 show this week. It would have been a 9 out of 10 had they broken up the tag team stuff better, to pace the show a little better. 3 back-to-back tag team matches is fine. Like I said, that's fine. The problem was that the best of the 3 was the first one, so the following 2 just didn't live up to it. They were great matches. All 3 were awesome. But the first one was the most awesome. So when you have that dilemma, you should have paced it a little better with a singles match. Like you could have thrown Sammy versus Cabana after FTR versus Butcher and the Blade, and it would have fixed all the problems. But either way, the show was still awesome. I am nitpicking here, okay? I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to call myself on that. I'm nitpicking. AEW has been great every week, and this show is no different. So far, it has never disappointed. Not once. Ever since October when Dynamite started, I can't think of one episode that I was just vastly disappointed in. This has been good stuff. It has been very good stuff. And also, I'm just going to say again, I'm so glad that Justin Roberts is back. I'm so happy. I love Justin Roberts announcing. I cannot wait to hear him go, Jon Moxley again. I can't wait. It'll be amazing. Extra large load will be had from me when I hear that again. I love Justin Roberts. So it was a great show. Very easy to watch. AEW is super easy to invest in. It was not as good as last week's show for me, personally, but it was still awesome. You know, last week's show was a 9 out of 10. This week's show is an 8 out of 10. Very close. They were still both amazing. Both great shows. Very, very, very enjoyable overall. Dynamite has proven itself every single week. I really believe it has. I can't think of one episode that has just drastically disappointed me. Dynamite has proven itself. I think that if you are not watching Dynamite, you should be. I really do. I think you will enjoy it. So, that's it, guys. That was Dynamite this week. It was a great show. So, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know if you enjoyed Dynamite. Let me know if you think I'm an asshole for enjoying Dynamite. let me know. I'll catch you later. Well, everybody, this has been Between the Bumps Professional Wrestling Podcast, the pro wrestling podcast where we go between the bumps in the ring to discuss match quality, storylines, wrestling news, and even make predictions in the world of professional wrestling and sports entertainment. I'm your host, Christian Marrero. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'll catch you guys later. Stay safe.